And, I'm an old fart. I'm a boomer. I avoid the social media stuff like the plague. But I did hear that we have someone in Montana, or a group in Montana, that is coming up with an interesting way to try to remove the big money from our politics.
That's correct.
It's called the Montana Plan.
Yep.
And I haven't really parsed the specifics out in my own head here because I got so many other things going on, which is a common excuse for a lot of us.
It's all good, Ken. Are you calling for an explanation, or did you want to pontificate?
No, I just wanted to promote that and hope you, I get to watch you once in a while and hope you kind of break that down.
Well, here's how it works.
And I have another point to make,
sure.
Which involves the Epstein files, why Trump is so adverse to releasing all that information in commanding the DOJ and all that and the FBI. There are, what do you call those things? Visas. SME2 visas or SB2 or S, something like that. Well, did his wife, Melania, she was born in another country, right?
Slovenia, yeah.
Yeah. And wasn't she a model?
She was, and she came over here as a tourist and was working illegally and eventually got the right visa. And then when she hooked up with Donald, she got citizenship she got an Einstein visa. She got citizenship under this provision that allows for people with exceptional qualities, as they literally call it the Einstein. Yeah. And my take on it, and I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But my guess, this is just a guess, my guess is that the reason that Donald doesn't want this stuff revealed is because when he was running, I believe, that it's possible that when he was running the Miss Teen USA pageant, and then he had his other big beauty pageant that he took to Russia and whatnot, that he might have been engaging with Jeffrey Epstein in trafficking young women. This is all too familiar to me. You wake up with a scratchy throat, congestion, runny nose, and cough. You know your body. You know you're getting sick, right? Well, what are your choices? Tough it out, get sick, and take time off work? Hope the doctor can see you this month? Wait 2 hours at urgent care and have people cough all over you? Or open your medical emergency kit like mine. I just match my symptoms to the doctor-recommended prescription, start at the right meds, and nip this thing in the bud right now. This is not a first aid kit. It comes with doctor-prescribed meds to treat dozens of common and serious medical issues. Strong antibiotics for infections of all types, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, bronchitis, and a lot more. Plus, a doctor's easy guide so you'll know exactly what to take and when. No waiting to see the doctor, no waiting at the pharmacy. My meds are in my kit. Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit. You can get $35 off at urgentcarekit.com/Tom, T-H-O-M, when you check out. That's promo code Tom at urgentcarekit.com/Tom.
Yeah, I heard he had a bunch of shell companies or several shell companies to try to bury the money and the prostitution and such. And that's my idea also that popped into my head, and I wanted to kind of put it out there that there's a good chance that, or there may be a chance that that's the reason he doesn't want any of this dug into, because
I think
his
it's
wife
possible.
is involved with Epstein, not him.
Well, yeah, I mean, Epstein apparently bragged that he slept with Melania before Donald did. I've seen that reported. I haven't seen it confirmed anywhere. I think it came from Michael Wolff, who's, now obviously a pretty sketchy source, given that he was so in tight with Epstein. Now that we've seen the YouTubes or the emails.
Yeah.
He came on this show and he just treated me like crap, and now I understand why.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that one.
Yeah, it was.
There's another gentleman by the name of Wolf that I see on FSTV once in a while.
Yeah, that's
not Michael.
Yeah, he's an economist, and he's a good guy.
Very smart fellow.
Yeah. I disagree with him. He thinks that we should hand Ukraine over to Russia, and so I basically stopped having him on the program. But But other than that, economically, he's solid. But let me talk about the Montana plan for a second, since you brought it up, Ken, just real quickly.
Sure.
The Supreme Court ruled that corporations are persons, and that under the First Amendment, persons have the right to free speech, and that money is the same thing as speech, and therefore corporations can use their money to engage in speech. In other words, to give that money to politicians and political causes and things like that. Now, the loophole here that Montana is exploiting is that corporations are chartered by the states, not the federal government. There's a handful of federally chartered corporations. Amtrak is one of them, but they're the exception rather than the rule. The Fed is a federally chartered corporation. Amtrak, there's a couple of others. But basically every state charters corporations, and when a state charters a corporation, it's basically giving you permission to conduct business under certain circumstances. And different states have different sets.
They set the rules, correct?
Exactly, and different states have different sets of rules. The least restrictive rules in the country are the state of Delaware, where you simply have to say in your incorporation documents, I intend to conduct any business that's legal in the state of Delaware. That's all you have to say. In other states, you have to say, I intend to run a car dealership, or that kind of thing. And there's specific rules and all that kind of stuff. So because the states have the power to create rules that regulate the behavior of a corporation, Montana is saying, we are going to say that corporations, corporations can invest money in R&D, corporations can hire employees, corporations can buy land, there's a bunch of things corporations can do, but they're only doing with the permission of the state. So what Montana is going to say is, you can do business in the state all day long, but you may not give money to politicians or to political causes. You may no longer do that. And that will not violate the Supreme Court ruling, because the Supreme Court ruling
takes it out of their hands.
Right.
Yes.
The Supreme Court ruling is federal, not state, and it's not, and it arguably does not apply to Montana. Now, there are people who are saying that if Montana actually passes this, that it will be appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court may set a brand new precedent, frankly, in violation of the Constitution, which they're inclined to do.
Worth fighting for.
But that's the strategy, and that's how they're doing it. And I would like to see other states do it. In fact, it's something that I've been intending to write an op-ed about for weeks now. To encourage states, particularly California. I'd love to see California do this, or my state, Oregon. There's some states where I think you've got both a governor and a legislature who might be inclined to do this. And probably what's happening is they're waiting to see how this plays out in Montana. And I haven't dug deep enough into that to know when that ballot measure or when that legislation, I frankly don't know the details of it beyond, the structure, how it's going to work, how it's going to come into law. So I've got to do my homework first.